Hey everyone. Get cozy, settle into a comfy position, and let these calming tales whisk you away to a peaceful night's sleep. Drop a comment below on what time and from where you are watching this video and share your own late-night ritual that helps you drift off. The air in Baldur's Gate was thick with the scent of salt and ambition, a heady mix that clung to my cloak as I pushed through the creaking door of the Blushing Mermaid. The tavern was a riot of noise, raucous laughter, the clink of tankards and the off-key strum of a bard's lute. Dim lanterns cast flickering shadows across scarred wooden tables, where sailors, mercenaries and rogues swapped tales of glory and deceit. I adjusted the hood of my cloak, keeping my face half hidden. In a city like this, anonymity was a currency as valuable as gold. I'd come to the gate seeking answers, not adventure. My name's Elyra, a wanderer with a knack for finding trouble, or maybe it found me. 3 weeks ago, a cryptic letter had arrived at my doorstep in Waterdeep, penned in a trembling hand. Seek the Shadowed Chalice in Baldur's Gate. The truth of your blood lies within. No signature, no explanation, just those words and a crude sketch of a goblet wreathed in thorns. I'd spent my life piecing together who I was. Orphaned at 6, raised by a kindly but clueless herbalist, but this was the first real clue to my past. So here I was, in a city that chewed up dreamers and spat out cynics. I slid into a corner booth, the wood sticky with spilled ale. The barmaid, a wiry woman with a scar across her cheek, dropped a tankard in front of me without asking. New face, eh? Keep your wits sharp or this place'll bleed you dry, she said, her voice rough as gravel. I nodded, sipping the bitter brew, my eyes scanning the room. The letter had mentioned the Blushing Mermaid as the starting point, but it offered no further hints. Was the chalice a person? An artifact? A damned metaphor? A man at the next table caught my eye. He was lean, with sharp cheekbones and a cloak that shimmered faintly, like it was woven from moonlight. He was nursing a goblet of wine, his fingers tracing its rim as he listened to a boisterous group of adventurers. Something about him felt off. His gaze flicked to mine, and for a heartbeat, I swore his eyes glowed amber. Then he smiled, a predator's grin, and raised his glass in a mock toast. Looking for something, stranger? He called, his voice smooth as silk but edged with menace. I leaned back, feigning nonchalance. Just a drink and some quiet. You. He chuckled, low and dangerous. Oh, I'm always looking. Name's Baldur. And you are? Elyra, I said, keeping my tone neutral. No need to give him more than that. In Baldur's Gate, names were power, and I wasn't about to hand mine over like a fool. Baldur's smile widened. Elyra, a name with weight. Tell me, what brings a woman with such purpose to a dive like this? I bristled at his tone but kept my cool. Curiosity. Heard the mermaids got stories worth hearing. Stories and secrets. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. But some secrets come with a price. Ever heard of the Shadowed Chalice? My heart skipped. I forced my face to stay blank, though every nerve screamed to press him for more. Sounds like a fancy cup. What's it to you? He laughed, a sound that sent a chill down my spine. Oh, it's more than a cup, Elyra. It's a key. A key to truths better left buried. But if you're chasing it, you'd best watch your back. The gate's got eyes and they're all hungry. Before I could respond, a crash echoed from the bar. A hulking half-orc had slammed a fist into the counter, sending tankards flying. I said more ale, not excuses, he roared. The barmaid didn't flinch, just crossed her arms and stared him down. The room tensed, hands drifting to sword hilts and dagger sheaths. Baldur's eyes gleamed with amusement, but he didn't move. I used the distraction to slip away, weaving through the crowd toward the back of the tavern. A narrow staircase led to the upper rooms, where rumors said the real deals were made. If the chalice was here, I'd find it, or someone who knew more than Baldur was letting on. My hand rested on the dagger at my hip, a gift from my herbalist foster mother. For when the world shows its teeth, she'd said. Tonight I had a feeling I'd need it. The staircase creaked under my boots, each step a reminder of how far I was from the safety of Waterdeep. The air grew heavier as I climbed, thick with the scent of old wood and something sharper, ozone like the air before a storm. At the top, a hallway stretched, lined with doors. Muffled voices leaked through one, sharp with argument. I pressed my ear to the wood, catching fragments. Chalice is a myth, Quran. A fool's errand. Then why's half the city whispering about it? It's real and it's here. I froze. The chalice again. I glanced down the hall, ensuring I was alone, then eased the door open a crack. Inside, two figures stood over a table littered with maps and scrolls. One was a wiry elf with silver hair, her fingers twitching like she was itching for a fight. The other, Karan, was a broad-shouldered human with a beard that looked like it could hide a dagger. He jabbed a finger at a map. "It's in the Under-District," Karan said. "The old sewers beneath the heap. I've got a contact who swears they saw it." The elf scoffed. "Your contact's a drunk, Karan. And the Under-District's a death trap. Drow Durgar worse, they all want a piece of whatever's down there." I leaned closer, my pulse racing. The Under-District. I'd heard tales of it, a warren of tunnels beneath Baldur's Gate, home to the city's darkest secrets. If the chalice was there, it explained why no one had claimed it. But why was it tied to my past? What truth was worth risking that hell? The floorboard under me groaned. The elf's head snapped up, her hand flying to a rapier at her side. "Who's there?" she barked. I cursed under my breath and pushed the door open, hands raised. "Easy. Just passing through." Karan's eyes narrowed. "Passing through, eh? To where?" "Ain't nothing up here but trouble." I forced a smile. "Heard there's a game of cards up here. Thought I'd try my luck." The elf didn't buy it. She stepped closer, her rapier half drawn. "You're no gambler. What's your business, skulker?" My mind raced. If I mentioned the chalice, they'd either clam up or gut me. But lying wasn't my strong suit, and those eyes, sharp as daggers, told me she'd see through it. So I gambled. "I'm looking for something." A cup. Thorned shadowy. Ring any bells? Karan's face darkened, but the elf's lips curled into a smirk. Well, another treasure hunter. "You got a name, cup chaser?" "Elyra," I said, holding her gaze. "And you?" "Silvara," she replied, her tone mocking. "And this lout's Karan. You're in over your head, Elyra. The Shadowed Chalice isn't some trinket you pluck from a shelf. It's cursed, guarded, and wanted by folk who'd kill you for even saying its name." "Then why were you after it?" I shot back. I didn't have a buyer, only questions. But their talk of curses and guardians sparked a flicker of dread. The letter had said the chalice held the truth of my blood. Was it tied to some ancient magic? Family I never knew? I needed more. "Join us," Silvara said suddenly, sheathing her rapier. "You've got guts and we could use another blade. Split the take 3 ways." I hesitated. Teaming up with strangers in Baldur's Gate was a good way to end up dead in an alley. But alone I was just a wanderer with a dagger and a hunch. "What's the catch?" I asked. Karan grinned. "Catch is, you survive the Under-District. Deal?" I nodded, my stomach twisting. "Deal." The entrance to the Under-District was a rusted grate behind a fishmonger's stall in the heap, Baldur's Gate's filthiest district. The stink of rotting fish and worse clung to us as Karan pried the grate open, revealing a black maw of a tunnel. Silvara lit a torch, its flame casting jagged shadows on the damp stone walls. I adjusted my pack, the weight of my dagger reassuring against my hip. "Stay sharp," Silvara whispered. "Anything moves, it's probably not friendly." We descended, the air growing colder, thicker, like breathing through a wet cloth. The tunnel twisted, its walls slick with moss and something that glistened like blood. Karan led, his broadsword drawn, while Silvara scanned the shadows, her rapier ready. I stayed between them, my senses straining for any sound beyond our footsteps. The letter's words echoed in my mind, "The truth of your blood." I'd always felt different. Not just orphaned, but marked like something in me didn't belong. Dreams of thorns and shadows had haunted me since childhood, and now here I was, chasing a myth that might explain them. Or kill me. A skittering sound snapped me back. Silvara raised a hand, halting us. Ahead, the tunnel widened into a chamber, its floor littered with bones. At its center stood a pedestal, and on it, a goblet, its surface black as midnight, wreathed in carved thorns that seemed to pulse with faint light. The Shadowed Chalice. "Too easy," Karan muttered, gripping his sword tighter. He was right. The air shimmered, and from the shadows stepped Baldur, his cloak glinting like starlight. But he wasn't alone. Figures emerged behind him, drow, their eyes glowing red, blades drawn. And Baldur, his form flickered, revealing scaled skin and slit pupils. "You on Ti?" My blood ran cold. "Elyra," he purred, his voice venomous. "You've led me straight to it. The chalice is mine. Silvara snarled, raising her rapier. You followed us, snake? Baldur laughed. I've hunted the chalice for centuries. It's no mere artifact, it's a vessel of power tied to bloodlines older than this city. And you, Elyra? His eyes locked on mine. You're the key to unlocking it. My heart pounded. The truth of my blood. Was I part of this? Before I could process, the drow lunged and the chamber erupted into chaos. Silvara parried a blade, Karan roared and swung, and I dove behind the pedestal, my dagger flashing. Valthur's words rang in my ears as I fought, dodging a drow's poison dagger. Was I a pawn in some ancient game? Or something more? The chalice glowed brighter, its light searing my skin. I reached for it, instinct overriding fear. The moment my fingers brushed its surface, pain exploded through me and the world went white. The pain was a living thing clawing through my veins like wildfire. The chalice's glow pulsed in time with my heartbeat, and for a moment, I was no longer in the Under-district. I stood in a vast, shadowed hall, its walls carved with thorns that writhed like serpents. A figure loomed before me, cloaked in darkness, its voice a hiss that echoed in my skull. Child of the thorn blood, you have come. Claim your birthright or be consumed. I gasped, wrenching my hand from the chalice. The vision shattered and I was back in the chamber, the clash of steel and shouts of battle ringing in my ears. Silvara was locked in a deadly dance with a drow, her rapier flashing like lightning. Karan was a whirlwind of fury, his broadsword cleaving through another's armor. Baldur stood apart, his amber eyes fixed on me, a smile curling his lips as if he knew what I'd seen. Elyra. Silvara shouted, parrying a blow. Grab the damn thing and run. I hesitated, the chalice's weight heavy in my hand. It wasn't just a cup, it was alive, its surface warm, almost breathing. Valthur's words haunted me, you're the key. Whatever this thing was, it was tied to me and running might not be enough. But staying meant facing a Yuan-Ti and his drow lackeys, and I wasn't sure I liked those odds. A drow lunged at me, his blade grazing my arm. I yelped, instinct kicking in. My dagger found his side and he crumpled with a gurgle. I snatched the chalice, tucking it into my cloak and bolted for a side tunnel. Silvara and Karan followed, their footsteps pounding behind me as Valthur's laughter echoed through the chamber. Don't think you can escape your fate, Elyra, he called. The chalice knows its own. The tunnel twisted, narrowing until we were scraping against slimy walls. My lungs burned, the chalice's weight dragging at my side. Silvara grabbed my arm, pulling me into an alcove as drow shouts grew closer. What in the nine hells was that? She hissed. You touched it and the whole place lit up like a temple. I don't know, I gasped, clutching the chalice through my cloak. It showed me something. A hall, a voice. It called me child of the thorn blood. Karan's eyes widened. Thorn blood? That's old magic. Forbidden magic. You sure you're just a wanderer, Elyra? I glared at him. I'm sure I didn't ask for this. You two knew the chalice was dangerous. Why didn't you warn me? Silvara snorted. We didn't know it'd pick you. That thing's a legend, said to bind itself to certain bloodlines. Guess yours is one of them. Before I could demand more, a low growl rumbled through the tunnel. Not drow, something worse. The air grew colder and a shape loomed at the tunnel's end. A hulking creature, its body a mass of writhing shadows, eyes like burning coals. A shadow mastiff summoned by gods no. Valthur's doing, no doubt. Move! Karan roared, shoving us forward as the beast charged. We sprinted, the chalice bouncing against my hip, its glow seeping through my cloak. The tunnel split and Silvara yanked us left toward a faint glimmer of light. The mastiff's howls echoed behind us, joined by the clatter of drow pursuit. The light led to a cavern, its ceiling studded with glowing crystals. A rickety bridge spanned a chasm, swaying over a void so deep I couldn't see the bottom. Silvara didn't hesitate, darting across with the grace of a cat. Karan followed, his weight making the ropes groan. I froze, the chalice's warmth pulsing against me, urging me forward. Claim your birthright. The voice from the vision lingered, and I wondered if I was running toward answers, or my doom. I stepped onto the bridge, my heart in my throat. The mastiff's snarls grew closer, and I glimpsed Valthur's silhouette in the tunnel behind, his eyes glinting. Halfway across, the ropes snapped. I screamed, grabbing the chalice as the bridge collapsed, plunging us into darkness. I hit water, cold and black, the impact knocking the breath from me. The chalice slipped from my grip, its glow vanishing into the depths. I thrashed, my lungs screaming, until my hand found a rocky ledge. I hauled myself up, coughing, and saw Silvara and Karan clinging to nearby rocks, their faces pale in the faint crystal light. The chalice? I gasped, scanning the water. Nothing. Just endless black. Forget it, Silvara snapped, wringing out her cloak. We're alive. That's more than most get down here. Karan grunted, hauling himself onto the ledge. She's right. That thing's trouble. Let it stay lost. But I couldn't. The chalice wasn't just a prize, it was my past, my truth. I dove back in, ignoring their shouts. The water was a void, but the chalice's glow flickered below, faint but calling. I kicked toward it, my fingers brushing its thorny surface. The moment I grabbed it, another vision hit. The shadowed hall again, the cloaked figure closer now, its face hidden but its presence heavy with sorrow. You cannot run from what you are. I broke the surface, gasping, the chalice clutched to my chest. Silvara and Karan stared, their expressions a mix of awe and fear. You're mad, Karan said, but there was respect in his voice. The cavern shook, rocks tumbling from above. Valthur's voice slithered through the dark. You can't hide, Elyra. The chalice is mine and so are you. Silvara cursed. He's tracking it. Or you. We need to move. We scrambled up a narrow path, the chalice's glow lighting our way. The cavern opened into a ruined temple, its walls carved with faded runes. At its center stood an altar, stained with ancient blood. The chalice pulsed and I felt it, an urge to place it on the altar. I resisted, but the pull was undeniable, like a hook in my soul. Don't, Silvara warned, her hand on my arm. That's no ordinary altar. It's a ritual site. Old magic tied to blood. Thorned blood, I whispered, the pieces clicking. The chalice, the visions, my dreams, they were all connected. But to what? A god? A curse? My family? Valthur's laughter echoed as he stepped into the temple, his drow allies fanning out. You feel it, don't you? He said, his eyes gleaming. The chalice chose you because your blood is its key. Place it on the altar, Elyra, and awaken your true power. Or refuse and die. I gripped the chalice, my mind racing. The visions had shown me power but also pain. Was this my birthright, a legacy of blood and shadows? Silvara and Karan stood ready, blades drawn, but this was my fight. I stepped toward the altar, the chalice burning in my hands, and made my choice. The chalice thrummed in my hands, its heat seeping into my bones as I stood before the altar. The air in the ruined temple was thick, charged with the weight of centuries and something darker, something that whispered of sacrifice. The runes on the altar glowed faintly, mirroring the chalice's thorny patterns, and I felt that same pull, urging me to set it down. But Valthur's words echoed louder. Awaken your true power. What did that mean? And why did it feel like a trap? Silvara's grip on my arm tightened. Elyra, don't. You don't know what it'll do. Karan's sword was raised, his eyes darting between the advancing drow and me. She's right. That thing's cursed. Drop it and let's fight our way out. But I couldn't drop it. The chalice was more than an artifact. It was a piece of me, tied to the dreams that had haunted me since childhood, to the letter that brought me to Baldur's gate. The truth of my blood. I met Valthur's gaze, his serpentine eyes glinting with certainty. He knew something I didn't, and that made him dangerous. What am I? I demanded, my voice steady despite the fear clawing my chest. You said I'm the key. To what? Valthur's smile was all teeth. You're a descendant of the thorned line, Elyra. A bloodline forged in shadow, bound to the chalice by an ancient pact. Place it on the altar and you'll see your power, your purpose. Refuse and I'll spill your blood to claim it myself. The drow edged closer, their blades gleaming. Silvara released my arm, stepping in front of me, her rapier ready. You want her snake? You'll have to go through us. Karan roared, charging the nearest drow, his broadsword a blur. The temple erupted into chaos. Steel clashed, shadows danced, and the chalice burned hotter in my hands. I backed toward the altar, my mind racing. If I placed the chalice, would it save us? Or doom us? The visions had shown power, but also pain, a figure cloaked in sorrow. Was that my fate? A drow lunged at me and I ducked, my dagger slashing across his thigh. He fell, but another took his place. Silvara was a whirlwind, her rapier piercing a drow's shoulder, but she was tiring. Karan was surrounded, blood streaming from a cut on his arm. We were outnumbered and Valthor hadn't even joined the fight. He watched, waiting like a spider in its web. The chalice pulsed and another vision hit. A woman, her face like mine, standing in this same temple, her hands stained with blood as she placed the chalice on the altar. "For the thorned line," she whispered, and the world burned. I staggered, the vision fading, but the message was clear. This had happened before. My blood, my family had been here, had made this choice. And it had cost them. "Elyra!" Silvara shouted, parrying a blow that nearly took her head. "Do something." I looked at the altar, then at Valthor. He wanted the chalice's power, but he needed me to unlock it. That gave me leverage. I raised the chalice, its glow casting eerie shadows across the temple. "Back off, Valthor," I said, my voice ringing, "or I smash this thing." His smile faltered. "You wouldn't? It's your birthright." "Try me," I said, gripping it tighter. "Tell your dogs to stand down, or your precious key is dust." The drow hesitated, looking to Valthor. He raised a hand and they froze, their blades still poised. "Clever," he said, his voice dripping with venom. "But you can't run forever. The chalice will call you back." "Maybe," I said. "But not today." I nodded to Silvara and Karan, who were panting but ready. "Let's go." We backed toward a side passage, the drow watching but not following. Valthor's eyes never left me, his smile returning as if he knew something I didn't. The chalice's weight dragged at my cloak, its warmth a constant reminder of the choice I hadn't made. We slipped into the passage, the temple's glow fading behind us, but I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The passage wound deeper into the underdistrict, its walls narrowing until we were forced to move single file. The chalice's glow dimmed, but its heat lingered, a pulse against my side that matched my racing heart. Silvara led, her torch casting long shadows, while Karan brought up the rear, his sword still drawn. We didn't speak, the weight of what had happened hanging heavy between us. My mind churned. The vision of the woman, my ancestor, haunted me. She'd stood at that altar, made the same choice I'd faced, and it had ended in fire. What was the thorn line? A cult? A curse? And why did Valthor need me to unlock the chalice's power? The letter had promised answers, but all I had were more questions, and a growing sense that I was in deeper than I could handle. We emerged into a wider cavern, its floor slick with water that reflected the faint crystal light above. Silvara stopped, turning to me. "All right, Elyra. Time to talk. What's with you in that cup? You went white as a ghost back there." I hesitated, clutching the chalice through my cloak. "I saw something. A woman like me in the temple." She placed the chalice on the altar and, it didn't end well. Karan frowned, wiping blood from his arm. "Sounds like a blood curse. Old magic tied to families. You got any kin you know of?" I shook my head. "Orphaned. Raised by an herbalist in Waterdeep. She didn't know anything about my parents, just found me on her doorstep with a note saying, 'Keep her safe.'" Silvara's eyes narrowed. "And now this chalice shows up, calling you by blood. That's no coincidence. You're tied to something big, Elyra. Bigger than us." I wanted to argue, to say I was just a wanderer chasing a lead, but the chalice's warmth pulsed again and I couldn't deny it. I pulled it out, its black surface gleaming in the torchlight, the thorns seeming to writhe. "This thing, it's alive. It showed me a hall, a voice. Called me child of the thorned blood." Valthor said the same. Karan spat. "Yuan-ti bastard. He's after power, not truth. Bet he wants to use you to unlock whatever that thing does, then slit your throat." "Or worse," Silvara muttered. "Yuan-ti don't play nice. If your blood's the key, he might need it, literally." My stomach twisted. "You think he wants to, what, sacrifice me?" Silvara shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe the chalice needs your blood to activate. Either way, you're not safe as long as you're carrying that thing." I stared at the chalice, torn. Part of me wanted to hurl it into the chasm we'd crossed, to be done with it. But the letter, the visions, the pull in my chest, they all said this was my path. I'd spent my life searching for who I was. Could I walk away now? A low hum filled the cavern and the chalice flared, its light bathing the walls. The runes on the cavern floor lit up, forming a circle around us. Silvara cursed, drawing her rapier while Karan raised his sword. What now? He growled. The air shimmered and a figure appeared, not Baldur but the woman from my vision. She was translucent, her face a mirror of mine, her eyes filled with sorrow. Elyra, she whispered, her voice echoing in my skull. The chalice is our burden. You must choose, wield its power or seal it away. But choose quickly, for the serpent hunts you still. She vanished and the runes faded, leaving us in darkness. Silvara grabbed my shoulder. What in the hells was that? My past, I said, my voice shaking. Or my future? The cavern was silent, save for the drip of water and the ragged sound of our breathing. The chalice's glow had dimmed again, but its weight in my hands felt heavier than ever. The woman's words, my ancestors, rang in my ears, wield its power or seal it away. But what power? And how could I seal something I barely understood? All I knew was that Baldur was coming, and the Underdistrict was no place to linger. We need to move, I said, tucking the chalice back into my cloak. Baldur's not far behind. Silvara nodded, her rapier still drawn. There's a way out up ahead. Old Smuggler's Tunnel leads to the docks. If we're lucky we'll lose him there. Karan grunted, his wounds still bleeding but his grip on his sword steady. Luck's in short supply down here. Let's go. We pressed on, the cavern narrowing into a tunnel that smelled of salt and decay. The air grew warmer, the distant crash of waves telling me we were nearing the surface. But the chalice's pulse quickened as if it sensed Baldur's approach. I glanced back, half expecting to see his glowing eyes in the dark. Nothing yet, but the hairs on my neck stood on end. Elyra, Silvara said, her voice low as we moved. That ghost, your kin, she said. You've got a choice. You planning to make it? I didn't answer right away. The chalice was my only link to my past, to the truth I'd chased across Farron. Wielding its power might give me answers, but the visions of fire and sorrow warned of a cost. Sealing it away felt safer, but what if that meant losing my chance to know who I was? I don't know, I admitted. But I'm not letting Baldur decide for me. Karan snorted. Good. Snake like him doesn't get to win. The tunnel opened into a wider chamber, its walls lined with crates and barrels, smuggler's stash long abandoned. A rickety ladder led to a trapdoor above, the faint glow of moonlight seeping through its cracks. Freedom was close, but the chalice flared again and a hiss echoed behind us. Baldur. You can't outrun fate, Elyra. His voice slithered through the dark, closer than I'd hoped. Shadows moved, and I glimpsed his scaled form, flanked by two drow and something worse. A hulking serpent, its body coiling, eyes like twin flames. Up the ladder. Silvara shouted, shoving me toward it. I scrambled up, the chalice banging against my hip, while Karan turned to face the threat, his broadsword gleaming. Silvara followed, her rapier flashing as she deflected a drow's thrown dagger. I reached the trapdoor and pushed, my arms straining. It gave way, revealing a starry sky and the salty tang of the docks. I hauled myself out, turning to help Silvara. Karan was below, trading blows with a drow, while the serpent lunged, its fangs grazing his leg. He roared, slashing its side, but Baldur was closing in, his eyes locked on me. Silvara, help him. I yelled, tossing her my dagger. She caught it midair, diving back into the fray. I clutched the chalice, my mind racing. The docks were alive with noise, sailors shouting, waves crashing, but no one would help us. Baldur's Gate didn't care about strays like me. Silvara dragged Karan up, his leg bleeding badly. The serpent's hiss grew louder, and Baldur's laughter chilled my blood. You're mine, Elyra, he called, his form shimmering as he climbed. The chalice and your blood, both belong to me. I scanned the docks, spotting a narrow alley between warehouses. There, I said, pointing. We lose him in the city. We ran, Karan limping but stubborn, Silvara covering our rear. The chalice's glow leaked through my cloak, a beacon I couldn't hide. The alley twisted through the heap, its shadows thick with the stench of rot and desperation. I heard the serpent's scales scraping behind us, Baldur's voice chanting in a tongue I didn't know. Magic. He was summoning something. The alley dead-ended at a crumbling wall, a rusted gate barring our way. Silvara cursed, kicking it, but it held. Karan leaned against a crate, his face pale. Leave me, he growled. Get that thing out of here. Not happening, I snapped, tugging at the gate. The chalice pulsed and another vision hit, a memory not mine. The woman again running through these same streets, the chalice in her hands pursued by shadows. She reached this gate, whispered a word, and it opened. "Sanguis," she said. I mimicked her, my voice shaking. "Sanguis." The gate creaked open, revealing a hidden courtyard. We stumbled through and I slammed it shut, the chalice's glow fading as if it approved. But Valthor's chant grew louder, and the air crackled with dark energy. We weren't safe yet. The courtyard was overgrown, thorny vines choking stone statues that loomed like silent sentinels. At its center stood a fountain, dry and cracked, its basin carved with the same thorn runes as the chalice. The air hummed with old magic, and the chalice responded, its warmth spreading through me like a fever. This place was no accident, it was tied to the chalice, to me. Silvara helped Karan to a stone bench, her eyes scanning the shadows. "This is a bad place to be cornered," she said, her voice tight. "What's the plan, Elyra?" I didn't have one. The chalice was heavy, its pull stronger here, urging me toward the fountain. The woman's voice echoed in my mind, "Wield it or seal it." But how? And what would it cost? I turned to answer Silvara, but a crash interrupted me. The gate splintered and Valthor stepped through, his serpent at his side, its scales glinting like oil. The drow were gone, maybe dead, maybe fled, but Valthor didn't need them. His presence alone was enough to choke the air. "End of the line," he said, his voice a low hiss. "Give me the chalice, Elyra, and I might let your friends live." Karan spat blood, gripping his sword. "Try it, snake." Silvara stood beside me, my dagger in one hand, her rapier in the other. "You're not taking her," she said, her eyes blazing. I stepped toward the fountain, the chalice's glow illuminating the thorns carved into its stone. "You want it?" I said, holding it up. "Tell me what it does. What's the thorn line? Why me?" Valthor's smile was cold. "The thorned line is an ancient pact, forged by your ancestors with a power older than the gods. The chalice is its heart, a vessel that binds their blood to shadow. You're the last of that line, Elyra. Your blood can awaken it, or seal it forever. I'd prefer the former. And you?" I asked, my voice steady despite the fear. "What do you get out of it?" "Power," he said simply. "The kind that reshapes worlds. Give it to me and you'll live. Refuse and I'll take it from your corpse." The serpent coiled, ready to strike. Silvara tensed, Karan struggled to stand, and I knew we couldn't fight him. Not like this. The chalice pulsed and I felt it. The fountain was the key. The woman in my visions had come here, had made her choice. I stepped closer, the thorns on the basin glowing as the chalice did. "Wield it or seal it." I turned to Silvara and Karan. "If this goes wrong, run." Silvara grabbed my arm. "Elyra, don't." But I was already moving. I placed the chalice in the fountain's basin, its thorns aligning with the runes. The ground shook and a voice, not the woman's but something deeper, older, filled my mind. "Child of the thorn blood, choose. Power or peace." Valthor lunged, his serpent striking. I closed my eyes and chose.